Hello, this is Eric with SoCal Cyclist, and today I want to take you on a bike maintenance adventure. I have a little surprise for us from Jensen USA. Let's open this up and take a look at what I ordered. Okay. That we don't need. Here we go. Item number 1 and item number 2. So the goal for today's video is for you to learn with me how to swap a cassette on a bike. This is something that I've never done. I have very minimal bike maintenance skills of indexing my gears and making sure the bolts are tight. I've never got something this far before. The road bike that I ride right now only has a 11 to 25 rear cassette on the Shimano 105 10-speed. And that's fine, but when you're a bigger guy like me and you're trying to climb mountains like Gibraltar, you wish you had a little bit more gear ratio to help you get up those mountains. And so I'm gonna try to put this Shimano HGX 10-speed 11 to 34 tooth cassette on the back. It might be too big and it might not fit. If that's the case, don't worry, I have a backup plan. But I think this is gonna make mine a mountain goat. My bike will be able to just claw its way up and I'll just be able to spin to win, baby, just like Lance, without the dope. But so I bought this from Jensen USA, and I also bought this toolkit. Having never done a cassette before, I didn't think that I have all the right tools for that. So this was just a generic foundation cycles made in Taiwan toolkit from Jensen USA that I found, but I think that it has all of the parts that I'll need, plus some other ones just to kind of bolster my bike toolkit up a little bit more. We'll see how much of these I actually need. I think I definitely need this weird thing with chains whipping around. I think it's like a chain whip or something. And I think I needed one of these bad boys to be able to take the cassette off the bike, but I don't actually know. I've never done it before. There might be some watching videos as we go to figure out how this works, but I think it should be fun. I also already had, so I didn't order one of these, but just a new Shimano 10-speed cassette chain, and I think that I'm gonna need one of these to make this all work. Fingers crossed, hoping this works. If not, like I said, I do have a backup plan, which will be somewhere in between the one I have and this one, but I'd really love to get this giant dinner plate size cassette on my road bike. I think it's gonna be really nice, but I don't know if it'll work or not, so we'll figure it out. So I kinda wanted to give you guys a visual. I just took my rear wheel off my bike, so that was step 1. And you guys can see now I have these old Bontrager, I don't even know what they are, Race X Lite. They just came on the bike when I got it used, and they've been great. I love them, but whoever was riding this before was either just a lot stronger than me or avoided hills, because I just have this small 10 to 25 cassette on the back. And so for those of you who don't really understand bikes or anything, because I'm learning a lot of this too, 10 is the smallest number I have, and then 25 is the number of teeth on the biggest cassette ring I have back here. I have 10 total different gears that I could choose from, so that's my gear range. That's what I could use to climb. The more teeth you have, the easier it is to climb. That's the easier it is to spin when you're going up hills. So I'm going from this, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna be able to get this big piece of pizza pie on there. You can see how much larger that big ring is. I'll have much better climbing gears when I'm going uphill. And so I have an event coming up, which we'll tell you guys about more later, that's gonna be a lot of climbing. And I think this is gonna save my legs a lot if I can get this one to work. So the goal is to go from that little guy up to this big guy, and then hopefully it'll make a big difference in my ability to go uphill at a better cadence. I've climbed Gibraltar, which is a local Santa Barbara famous climb, with this cassette. And it actually works okay, but I have to use a ton of power to get up the hill. So I just feel exhausted when I get up there. And this event I have coming up is gonna be that climb plus a lot more miles. And so I really am hoping that I can do it at a little better cadence and something that keeps my legs a little fresher when I get to the top. So that's the goal for switching to this, but we'll see how it works. So it's kind of an experiment. I just took my quick release skewer out. And now the next step is to watch a video on how to change the cassette, because I really have no idea if there's a proper way to do this or not, and I don't want to mess my bike up. There's 2 YouTube channels that I love to use for bike maintenance tutorials, and those are number 1, GCN, the Global Cycling Network. They have a ton of great stuff on GCN Tech and on the regular GCN channel that could really help you pretty much figure out anything. But when I'm really getting in the shop and learning a new technique, I love actually the Park Tools YouTube channel. They have a great video series with all types of maintenance tips. So if you're getting into bikes like we are and trying to learn more about them and how to work on them, those are 2 hot tips for you to use. I would go to them first, and if you still can't find what you need, go ahead and look around other places, but I haven't been able to find a question yet that I couldn't have answered on one of those channels. Okay, but how do you put this on there? So I think this is gonna be the right tool for this job. And now I need to figure out how to use this guy. I don't really know how this works. So the chain whip thing was a little confusing to use at first, but it looks like if you just kind of rest the chain along the cogs and then use a little bit of leverage, you're able to kind of hook onto there and prevent it from wanting to come undone. So that's really kind of nice, actually. Pretty easy to figure out. So I think that the best way to do this is gonna be, oh yeah, that's working. Nice. A little hard to get leverage on there, but definitely got that to work. Cool, that's pretty easy. Just use this little tool to take that lock nut out. Ooh. So there's the little lock ring that comes out. And then I think now that this will come off. Well, I think it will. All these parts of the cassette are kind of coming off. I'm trying to keep them somewhat in order as I work on this. Now that's not coming off, so I'm gonna watch a little bit more of the video and see if I can figure out what's going on here. So I had a little bit of trouble getting my old cassette off, and the problem is I hopefully don't need to replace my free hub body, but I'm noticing that my free hub body is all notched and starting to get worn down, so it's probably getting pretty close for that being like the next big repair I do. But for now, I'm just going to try to throw this cassette on here and hope that it works. So now I just have to throw this new cassette on here and we give it a go. So it really only lines up one direction, which is the nice thing about these, is you kind of can't mess it up, is my understanding, because you can't put them on the wrong way. If I try to put on here, it won't line up. There's one of the little grooves is a little bigger, so it really only lets you put it on that way, that correct way. Slide them all down just like that, and that really just leaves my last pieces here that I have to just screw on, I think. It says that I need to put a little bit of grease, which I have some assembly grease here, in here around the cassette threads. So I'm gonna try to just use this little brush and see how good I can do at getting it in there. I definitely think that for this job, it would be nicer if you had one of the little tubes of grease that would let you get down inside of there. I don't have any of that. I just have this big tub of grease. I'm gonna try to get some grease down in there. I think that's about all I'm gonna be able to get in there effectively. Awesome, now the last thing I need to do is just tighten this new lock nut down onto this bike. And it says that that same tool that I used to take the other one off, just do the same thing, but now I'm just going tighter. It says going this way, you don't really need the chain whip tool. You only really need that when you're coming off. This way I just need this tool, so I'll use the same thing that I used before from this handy little tool kit. And then just tighten this up. It says that you need about 50 pounds of torque at about 8 inches. I unfortunately don't have a torque wrench, so I'm just gonna try to do it by feel. This says 40 Newton meters. Oh yeah, that's about 40 Newton meters on the old torque arm wrench scale. So don't do as I do on this one. Definitely get a torque wrench. That's gonna be the next tool that I get for this job, but I think that that'll hold, and I'll just keep a close eye on it after a few rides. And if there's anything going awry, I'll try to swap it out. We just went from this being my biggest ring to that being my biggest ring. That's only challenge number 1. Now I need to figure out, will this fit on my bike with the derailleur I have? Or if that doesn't work, like I said, I do have a backup plan that I think will work. So let's see if we can get this guy fitted on my bike. Now that we got the new cassette onto my wheel, the next step is gonna be, can we make that cassette and wheel combination work with this derailleur? I know that I'm pushing it about as far as it can go and a little bit past what it recommends, and so I'm gonna put a new chain on. Also, I just wanna put a new chain on with the new cassette. So rather than mess with the master link, I'm just gonna use a chain breaker and pop this old one off. So this chain tool will just push one of the links out, and just there, it just did it. There we go, chain off. One of the big problems with putting such a large cassette on there is I'm probably gonna have to adjust this B-limit screw, which holds exactly where that jockey wheel lines up. If I don't adjust that to the right angle, it's not gonna let me get that other big cassette on there. I won't have the clearance for it. So now I'm just gonna try to adjust this B-limit screw, and we're just hoping that there is enough adjustment that I could get this thing to fit on my bike. Well, I've adjusted the B-limit screw about as far as it could go, and I think that it might be good enough, but the only way to tell for sure is to try to get a chain on here and see if it works. So that's gonna be next step. There's a little guide inside of your derailleur cage. You have to make sure you're on the right side of that. So that's just a little hot tip for you who are doing this for the first time like me. I didn't realize that was in there. That would have not been good had I had that on the wrong side. I think I figured out the right size. The next thing is gonna be, first you wanna check and make sure that when you're in your biggest chain ring and your biggest cassette, that your chain is nice smooth angles through your jockey wheels. And so I think that I have that right. And now the next thing to check is if I get on my smallest chain ring and my smallest cassette, I wanna make sure I have no slack in my chain, that this chain tensioner is able to keep it tight. So I'm gonna go through and change my gears to that and then see how the slack looks. So even though everything looked good the other way, I'm seeing now that this is way, way too floppy. And so I'm gonna have to shorten my chain a little bit and then see if that works. And then if that doesn't work, then I might have to just figure out a different cassette if this one doesn't work. But I'm gonna try to see if I can split the difference and make it work. And can that get that close? I think I have to go about as short as I could possibly go with this chain for me to be able to make it work, and I still don't even know if for sure it'll work. I think it might. So my chain is on there. Now the question is, can it go to its loosest setting again? So I just have to try to see if it's gonna be still way too much slop, and then if it can't, then I really might have to think about a different cassette. It definitely has like a little bit of slack there, more than I would want. But I think that I would very rarely ever be in this gear, and so I think it might actually work. So I'm gonna give this a go for a while and see if I like riding the bike this way. If it doesn't work, then we'll have to figure something else out. But for now, I think we're gonna give this a try, and I think that it looks like I definitely have clearance on the big cassette, so that's less of the issue. It's more that for the size chain I need now, I really do need that long cage derailleur. And what that means is that this piece of the derailleur would be a little longer. It would be able to tension a little bit more range of chain. And so I'm trying to make this work with this much shorter cage. So that's really what's happening. That's the problem. It's not the cassette not working. It's just the derailleur isn't really built for this. I'm pushing it past its limits. I'm gonna give this a go for a while and see how it works. If I don't like it, then I might have to come down to something a little smaller, like a 32 or something like that, which would still be awesome. So, but we'll give this a go. I think it's gonna work for now. Like I said, that definitely is able to tension it. And like I said, you would almost never be in this gear. I'm basically cross-chaining at this point. So I don't think that this will even really be a problem. But we'll test it out. We'll see how it works. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I know it was kind of a wild ride. Again, don't do as I do. Look up Park Tools or GCN or one of those places. I just kind of wanted you to see what we're doing with the bikes. I'll do a review on this cassette and tell you how I like it. I'll go do some climbs with it. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content and you like to see bike maintenance or trying to learn new skills, then give it a like and a thumbs up. If there's a specific thing you'd like to see or learn how to do on a bike, ask us in the comments and we'll make a video about that. So thank you so much, and from SoCal Cyclists, we'll see you on our next ride.